One of the things that absolutely makes me laugh whenever I'm scrolling through the internet.com is the discovery, time after time, that people both love victimization, but also are incredibly stupid. And even smart people with high end technical skills that you or I will never possess, although you out there in the audience might be likely, at least some of you, to possess some of these skills. I just don't have them, and it makes me feel comforted to say that you don't have them either. And that brings us to what we're going to talk about today, because apparently a lab manager over at Northeastern University was the first victim of the Metaverse terrorism problem. So we got to get into this. It's going to be absolutely hilarious. But before we do any of that, we are sponsored. So let me toss it to the sponsor, and then we'll bring it back over here and we'll talk about it on the other side. As if the rising cost of food, housing, and gas wasn't bad enough, you're in for it when it comes to your energy bills. Next month, energy bills across the country are expected to rise on average around 20%. And by 2023-2024, we're expecting to see them go up 30% more. This is one of the reasons why I'm happy to be partnering with SavePowerBills.com, because they have a little amazing device that can help you stabilize your current, thus reducing your electric bills. This product has been seen on Fox News, on Forbes, Discover, and many other places because it's so simple to use, and what it does is you plug it in and it stabilizes your current, preventing surges and all kinds of issues, significantly lowering your energy bill over time. And for those of you out there in my audience, if you go to SavePowerBills.com, you can get this device shipped directly to you with a 60-day money-back guarantee, and it comes with a $100 energy rebate certificate, and it's 50% off. That's SavePowerBills.com, SavePowerBills.com. So the Metaverse, Meta, Facebook's white whale, the thing that has caused their stock price, probably more than anything else, to plummet like a rock, is up and running. And if you look at some of the stuff, you can see that the future of virtual reality, the future of something Meta, does not look that bright. These avatars look cringe. It looks worse than The Sims. I'm not into it. I think you could build a better metaverse than Mark Zuckerberg is building, but whatever. The company goes on. They continue to push forward, and again, Meta is now the replacement name for Facebook. Are you into it? Let me know down in the comments of this video. Now, while most of us are incredibly ambivalent about the Metaverse, while most of us could care less about what Mark Zuckerberg, the android, is doing with virtual reality, and we will take up the fight with the Metaverse once it becomes the Matrix and begins imprisoning us all, in reality, there are some people out there that are very devoted to the Metaverse. And whenever you have people that are very devoted to anything, a lot of those people end up coming under the impression that there must be people out there against them. There must be a force out there in the universe that wants to stop them from building their own universe, and that is what plagued the Northeastern professor that we're going to talk about today, because he reported that he received a package in the mail in the real world, not in the Metaverse, and that package contained an explosive surprise. This hard shell case, which contained a note that we're going to go over later, apparently upon opening it, it exploded and sharp shrapnel flew everywhere, and then he realized that the Metaverse was under threat. The terrorists have gone virtual, and we are all in danger of losing our future Matrix prison that Mark Zuckerberg is building. Now, the professor in question is a man called Jason Duhami. I don't know how to pronounce that. That's not really relevant. And he is accused and charged right now with providing false statements to the federal government because allegedly he staged this whole terrorist attack. Allegedly, people don't want him to stop working on the Metaverse, but he was really convinced that this would somehow benefit him in some way, shape, or form. And I don't know, but just based on his face alone, I think the man might be guilty. Now, this is supposedly the case that the bomb came in with. Now, as you can see, it must have been not that powerful of a bomb, considering the fact that this case looks relatively undamaged. I mean, you would think an explosion with sharp shrapnel flying everywhere would have at least taken out some of this styrofoam cushiony stuff, but apparently that just didn't happen. You would also think that maybe this note, which obviously would have had to been in the case and is made of paper, would have also somehow received some level of damage due to the fact that the bomb apparently shot out a bunch of shrapnel. But let's go on. Now look, I've already spoiled that this is in fact a hoax. I've already spoiled that this is ridiculous in every possible way, but it's just hilarious to look over the pieces of evidence presented by a guy who is smart enough to be the head of a lab manager working on VR. He's so disconnected from the real world that he didn't think about the prospects of what an explosion would actually do to the objects that are centered around this explosion in the real world. It's absolutely amazing to me how somebody can be such an expert in one field, but a complete and total idiot in other fields, like knowing the basics of anything. But we need to go on, we need to read his version of events because it just is so amusing that I needed to share it with all of you. Quote, I unlock the subject case and I open it up. And as soon as I open it up, all of this energy and like these things come flying out. And I had a long sleeve shirt. They flew up underneath, basically hit my arm. The case went up. Then it came down, he told investigators. So you might be thinking to yourself, after I just read that quote, what? What the hell is this guy talking about? How did he think that this was a believable story? Why would he say that the sharp shrapnel went up his long sleeve shirt and then hit his skin? And the answer to that question is actually quite obvious, because you see, when you make the claim that an explosion happened and all of this energy just bursts out of this case and there's no damage on the case, you also need to explain how all of that sharp shrapnel that apparently was spring-loaded with all of this energy to shoot projectiles out at you managed to not cut up any piece of your clothing at all. And you have to explain that to the FBI, and the best explanation that this guy gave was that the explosion went up his long sleeves, and that's why he had some like little marks on his arm, but not on the shirt. So this guy had like little dings all over his arms that obviously he made, allegedly he made. I know it's not confirmed yet, he hasn't been convicted, but let's just say his story leaves a lot to be imagined for his defense. And yeah, that's what he went with. That's the absurdity that he put forward as far as this terrorist attack on the metaverse. But it gets even better because this also came with a note. Obviously, the paper was an indestructible form of paper that was not damaged by the explosion. And this computer-typed note is incredibly legible, which is why I'm going to read portions of it to you so you can understand the criminal genius that is this professor who is a lab manager at Northeastern University. If you ever thought that you might have been a little bit too overqualified for your position mentally, just think of this man. Think of his face and then realize that you're all right where you are and you could always be more unqualified to be doing what you're doing. To the lab manager of the VR and the other lab managers in the MSO. Okay, so I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a police officer, I just pretend to be one on this YouTube channel for your entertainment, but already, and I do mean all and then ready, this man is too damn stupid. We need to lock him up just based solely on the crime, that this staged crime is so stupid it's unbelievable, and he actually wasted police resources. He might as well have just turned himself in immediately rather than going through this whole process, because your and I tax dollars went to pay for investigators to actually go over this. And you can tell by the first sentence that this man is guilty. Lock him up, throw away the key, allegedly, please don't sue me, Professor. I know you guys can get quite litigious. Now, I've been calling him the lab manager at Northeastern University, but the thing that you need to understand about titles is that no one, and I mean absolutely no one, cares about your personal title as much as you do. So the idea that this letter initially from the jump mentions this person's title is a giant red flag. It proves him to be guilty. He would have been better off addressing this to himself as an individual, or addressing this to somebody else or to the department as a whole, so that way it doesn't seem so ridiculous that you were able to mail supposedly an explosive package to the lab manager, and then coincidentally the lab manager is the only one to open this package, and then this explosion of unbelievable energy came out of this hard case but didn't damage any of the foam in the case. So right here, right now, this guy's done. It's over. Convict him. Give him the time that he needs. Making false statements to the FBI. Send him up the river. We all understand that he's definitely guilty. But the letter goes on, and we must read on. To the lab manager of the VR lab and the other lab managers in the MSO, it has come to our attention that the VR lab is trying to change us as a world. Again, I'm really not going to pause it every single time that I get through one sentence. But guilty, throw him away. He is definitely guilty. The idea that they're like, "Dear Lab Manager," this esteemed title at Northeastern University, it has come to our attention that you intend to change the world with your amazing and stellar technological advances that we are all too stupid as plebs to understand. This guy obviously wrote this. Please lock him up. Give him 5 years extra just for writing this letter so freaking bad. He couldn't even run this across the theater department or the English department at the university and said, "Hey, does this sound a little too stupid, a little too on the nose, a little too villainous? Jesus, oh my God, I am embarrassed for you. I'm so sorry that your life was so meaningless and you were working on Zuckerberg's failed project and you decided that you needed to rectify this by staging an explosion of unbelievable energy, trying to get us to live in a world that we only communicate through headsets and live in a land called the Metaverse." All caps. Guilty. That we have computers paint pictures through AI! Exclamation point, 5 different ones. You are trying to change the fabric of the ideology of the people, with 2 E's for some reason. Also an exclamation point. Trying to get us to live inside a virtual censored. Why is this censored? Come on. I really should have found this on a tabloid. Up world. I'm guessing that's effed up world. You are not the creator. Even more exclamation points. Seriously, people, look at how many exclamation points are right there. That's absurd. Stop it. You think you are. I'm pausing for the exclamation points, but obviously the sentence structure is terrible. We know you are the Antichrist sent to this world to change everything. We will stop you. Okay, so here's the thing. Check me out. I'm not a religious person. I'm not somebody who is in fear of the coming Antichrist and very cautious against it. However, I am able to put myself in the position where I would be able to understand somebody who is afraid of that. And if I believed a person was actually the Antichrist and they were working on this crazy Antichrist virtual reality matrix hellscape, and they were trying to imitate the creator in doing so, I would at least know their name. Like, let's say, for example, just a hypothetical for you guys out there, I thought that the Antichrist was the manager of a Wendy's. I wouldn't tell you, oh my God, the Antichrist is the manager of a Wendy's. I would say, that guy, then I would say his name, the manager of Wendy's, is the Antichrist. But this letter that was obviously written by this professor takes no such consideration of the people that would actually be in fear of the Antichrist. And by the way, maybe the energy that was in this thing was holy magical energy. I'm gonna read more of the letter. I'm sorry. This is too ridiculous. We know you're working with Mr. Mark Zuckerberg and the U.S. government. Jesus, with the exclamation points. Holy crap. I think whoever wrote this might be the Antichrist. Saw at the headquarters Mark's communications with the MSO. I just want to point out that Mark's should be apostrophe S because the communications belong to Mark. just grammar correcting you. We know he has employed your MSO team and you are secretly traveling to see him and give him test results. We know he hands you secret documents to travel back with. So you know what's amazing about this? Universities do in fact partner with big corporations in order to work on specific projects. I'm sure you've seen this company X ends up giving a grant to this university, they open up a new department, and then that department works on things that often will turn into products for that company. So it's an investment in the future. This guy might actually, in the midst of his ridiculous plot, be revealing that he's getting secret information from Meta through this partnership and putting it out there into the public, and now it has to go public because he decided to make this a part of this shadowy cabal of Christians that were going after him from being the Antichrist. Now, Is this person personally meeting with Mark Zuckerberg? No, likely not, but I wish he was. Is this person actually somebody that Mark Zuckerberg was turning over secret documents to? Probably no, but I wish, for the love of God, that he was, because Mark Zuckerberg's Meta may be in a lot more trouble than he actually thinks it is. We are sick and tired of the craziness that you're building and using us all as human test subjects. 3 exclamation points. Mark Zuckerberg is the head of US cybersecurity. 5 exclamation points. Not Meta. 4 exclamation points. He is funding the Ghost Lab. We know the project is being marketed as a military project, but it is not for the military. It, with 3 eyes, so I'm going to go, it is to destroy US all as a society. I'm guessing that was an us, not US, like as in America. We know you are working on a secret flying project to scan buildings across the world so Mark can take over Google Maps. There are very few things that I can recall that I wanted to be more true than this sentence ever in my life. The idea that Mark Zuckerberg and his team over at Meta are working on some drones with some new building scanning technology that they're trying to keep very hush-hush, and they ended up revealing that information to this idiot over at Northeastern University, and then he puts it in a letter to try to make the terrorists seem more authentic, and now that's out in the public, is so amazing to me, it's so enjoyable to me, that I just want it to be true. I want whatever Zuckerberg's project to be ruined by this guy staging this hoax because it's that good. We know you have lots of professors and students entering the lab and placing headsets on to have secret meetings with Mark. We know you're doing eye tracking and measuring Sidborg's artificial pulse. The robots you are building are walking around the campuses at NEU, MIT, and into Harvard Yard. I'm guessing that's a new school called Harvard Yard. We know you're in your 4th floor makerspace. You are making Mark 3D models for Huey's new headset, VR in parentheses, in case you were confused. By the way, headset has 4 T's in it. We know you're building him robots. 4 exclamation points. You say the people visiting are students, but we know they are employed by Mark and contracted it out to the MSO. This needs to stop immediately. If you don't stop this work, we will have to destroy the labs and the MSO. We could have unscrewed a saw in the 4th floor lab Mark is funding. In case you got today, we could have planted explosives, but not this time. So the premise of this letter is that they want them to stop working on the robots and the things for the US government and the metaverse, because obviously they're trying to make a hellscape because Antichrist works at this lab as the head of the lab, by the way, the lab manager, just so you know, just so you get that title in there, and they want him to stop immediately. That is what you would glean from the letter so far. And they say that they could get into the 4th floor lab, again, adding way too many details, making yourself seem way more guilty than you need to seem, and they could have sabotaged in all these ways, but also an explosion is likely coming soon. And by the way, if this letter came before and was not attached to the case or whatever, like I was saying earlier on, that means that he got a threatening letter saying that there was going to be a bomb, but he decided to open a random hard case that was full of energy like you could never imagine, and shrapnel that went up his long sleeve shirt and attacked his skin after getting a bomb threat. But that is not even the best part. There is one more line in this that is just beautiful. Take notice. You have 2 months to take the operations down or else. Okay, so let's get this all straight. These people believe that the lab manager at Northeastern University, who is the person who has been arrested as the hoaxer in this instance for providing false statements to the federal government, is in fact the Antichrist. He's helping Mark Zuckerberg, who may be a party to the Antichrist, but is definitely the head of US cybersecurity, build a virtual reality hellscape and using human test subjects in order to do so. They're also building robots for the government and for the metaverse, and maybe hooking them up into the metaverse, downloading their robot consciousness into the metaverse. Okay? There was also a Sidborg, not a cyborg. It was spelled Sidborg, so a Sidborg. I don't know what that is, but that is also involved in this situation. But despite the fact that this is clearly an example of the end of days, despite the fact that this is clearly something that you would need to kill people over, they're generous enough to give you 2 months to shut down all lab operations, even though 3 sentences before, they said this needs to stop immediately. You know, people often say that most scientists being atheists and non-Christians or whatever is somehow an indication that, you know, the smartest people are atheists, so you should just follow the smartest people. And look, I'm not a religious person. I would call myself an atheist myself. But the thing is that I've known Christians, I've spoken to Christians, and I actually have some recollection of how Christians talk and think. This guy may be a smart person in some regards. He may be building Sidborgs that are going to go into virtual reality and change the world, according to him. Or the terrorists or whatever, same thing. But the thing is, he has no understanding of how Christians work, especially Christians that would be so extreme that they would want to kill. He thinks that they're in every single place. This makes sense as an organization. They believe he is the Antichrist, but they're going to give him 2 months to shut down all operations after saying that he has to stop immediately because he's the Antichrist. Also, I don't know anything about Christianity. Well, I don't know a lot about Christianity. I know a few things. I've watched a few seasons of Supernatural, and they had some Christian elements to it, but if the guy's the Antichrist, why would you think he would stop if you sent him a strongly worded, grammatically incorrect, overloaded with exclamation points letter? This is the dumbest plot I've come across so far. It's really bad. It's really stupid. It's actually quite embarrassing. If this person was actually receiving secret documents from Mark Zuckerberg, then Facebook is in trouble. I'm not an investment pro. I'm not giving you financial advice. This is just a joke. But maybe consider selling your Meta stock because it's gonna fall further if these are the kind of people in Zuckerberg's inner circle. Also, how did you miss the opportunity to call Mark Zuckerberg a Sidborg? I mean, I don't even know. I'm gonna get through this sentence, I swear. I don't even know where to go from here. I'm not sure how I can talk about this any further. Yes, he was arrested. Yes, it was in connection with making a false terrorism plot and lying to the FBI. Obviously, we will be pending trial. I wish his defense attorney luck in defending this case because I don't think this is the best example of somebody who is your client giving you a lot of ammunition to work with. Likely this guy is going to plead guilty, but he is still telling the press that this totally happened, which again is just amazing. This guy actually legitimately thinks he's the smartest person in the world, and maybe the reason why he's trying to build a virtual reality world is because he actually is already there mentally and he cannot function in a world that is not of his design. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like the video, you show them by leaving a like. You hit the like button. If you want to subscribe, then you hit the subscribe button. If you want to follow me on all my social medias, you go to the links in the description, and then you follow me on all my social medias. If you want to support me, you can go to the links in the description for support or for merchandise. There's a shelf below. Blah, blah, blah. Till next time.